I'm Samantha Mitchell, 29 years old, and my entire world collapsed during my lunch break on an ordinary Tuesday. One text message. That's all it took. I was scrolling through social media when our family group chat notification appeared. My father's name, then words I never imagined reading. "We need space from you. Don't contact us again." My fingers trembled as I called them repeatedly. No answer. Just silence that echoed louder than any scream. Before you continue with my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button if you've ever been blindsided by family, and subscribe to join our community of survivors, sharing their stories. Now let me take you back to how my perfect family life unraveled in an instant. Growing up, I was the epitome of a good daughter. My parents, Robert and Catherine Mitchell, had high expectations, and I worked tirelessly to meet them. While other kids spent weekends at the mall or going to parties, I was studying for advanced placement exams or volunteering at the local hospital because it would look good on college applications. "Samantha's going to be somebody special," my father would boast to neighbors at our annual block party. "She gets that drive from me." He'd wink as though we shared some secret genetic advantage. Mom was more focused on appearances. "Stand up straight, Samantha." "First impressions matter," she'd whisper before introducing me to her country club friends. By 16, I could balance a book on my head while reciting the periodic table. Not because anyone asked me to, but because excellence was the baseline in our household. My bedroom walls were lined with academic trophies and certificates of achievement. Each A+ was met with a simple nod, expected, not celebrated. The rare A would trigger concerned conversations about applying myself and living up to my potential. Dance was my passion, the one place where I felt truly free. I'd spend hours choreographing routines in the privacy of my bedroom, dreaming of performing on stage. "Mom, the dance team is holding tryouts next week," I mentioned one evening during my sophomore year. "Honey dance is a lovely hobby, but college's preferred debate team. It demonstrates critical thinking." Her smile was gentle but firm. "Besides, Brandon needs rides to baseball practice those afternoons." Brandon. My younger brother by 3 years. Where I was responsible, he was carefree. Where I saved my allowance, he spent his immediately and then borrowed from mine. Where I was expected to be perfect, Brandon was allowed to be human. Boys will be boys. Dad would chuckle when Brandon came home with mediocre grades or missed curfew. The same infractions would have resulted in a serious discussion about my attitude problem had I committed them. Despite the double standard, I loved my brother. He had a charisma that made his transgressions forgivable, a smile that could melt the strictest teacher's resolve. As we grew older, Brandon struggled to find his path bouncing between community college programs while I finished my marketing degree with honors. After graduation, I was offered an entry-level position at Adams & Burke Marketing. It wasn't my dream job, but it was stable with good benefits and growth potential, the practical choice my parents approved of. I worked my way up from assistant to junior manager within 3 years, finally earning enough to rent my own apartment 20 minutes from my parents' suburban home. Even as an independent adult, family remained central to my life. Sunday dinners were non-negotiable. I'd arrive at exactly 5:00 p.m. bottle of wine in hand. Mom's preference, not mine. I preferred beer, but wine is more sophisticated, dear. We'd sit around the mahogany dining table that had been in the family for generations, discussing safe topics like work achievements and neighborhood gossip. Just 3 days before the text, we'd had our normal Sunday dinner. Mom had prepared pot roast, my father's favorite. Brandon arrived late as usual, with a vague excuse about traffic. "Sorry, got held up," he mumbled, kissing Mom's cheek before sliding into his chair. I noticed dark circles under his eyes and a slight tremor in his hands as he reached for the water glass but said nothing. Pointing out Brandon's issues never ended well for me. Samantha was just telling us about her presentation, Mom said, seamlessly redirecting the conversation away from Brandon's tardiness. It went really well. I continued describing how I'd landed the Johnson account, a substantial client for our firm. My boss had hinted at another promotion on the horizon if things continued this way. That's nice, honey, Dad said, his attention already drifting to Brandon. Son, how's that job lead I mentioned working out? The rest of dinner followed the usual pattern. My achievements acknowledged briefly before the spotlight swung to Brandon's potential. There was nothing unusual about the evening, nothing to indicate that in just 3 days, they would cut me out of their lives completely. The next morning at work, I couldn't focus. The text message kept flashing in my mind like a neon sign. We need space from you. Don't contact us again. Sam Earth to Sam. My coworker Rachel waved her hand in front of my face. The Henderson file. You've been staring at your phone for 10 minutes. Sorry, My voice cracked as I showed her the message. Rachel's brow furrowed. That's bizarre. Did something happen? Nothing. Everything was normal on Sunday. Tears threatened to spill over. I need to go see them. Want me to cover for you? Rachel offered genuine concern in her eyes. 30 minutes later, I was pulling out of the company parking lot heading for the house I'd grown up in, desperate for answers I couldn't even begin to imagine. The familiar drive to my childhood home took 22 minutes, a route I could navigate blindfolded. Each landmark triggered memories: the ice cream shop, where Dad took me after I won the spelling bee in 4th grade, the park where Mom taught me to ride a bike, the high school where I graduated as valedictorian. As I pulled into the curved driveway of the 2-story colonial, something felt immediately wrong. Both my parents' cars were missing, though they should have been home. Dad was retired from his accounting firm, and Mom only volunteered at the library on Thursdays. I approached the front door, fishing out my keychain with the house key I'd had since middle school. Before inserting it, I tried the security keypad out of habit, punching in 0613, Brandon's birthday. The small screen flashed red: access denied. That was strange. They'd had the same code for years. I inserted my key instead, but it wouldn't turn. The locks had been changed. Mom, Dad, I called, ringing the doorbell repeatedly. I peered through the sidelight windows, seeing the familiar foyer but no movement inside. Circling to the back, I checked the sliding door, also locked, and glanced through the windows. Everything looked normal except for an eerie stillness that permeated the house. Samantha, is that you, dear? I turned to find Mrs. Jenkins, our septuagenarian neighbor, watching me from across the hedge that separated our properties. She wore gardening gloves and clutched pruning shears, concern etched on her weathered face. Hi, Mrs. Jenkins. Have you seen my parents today? Her expression shifted to something resembling pity. They left early this morning, packed suitcases into the car. Your father mentioned something about a trip. A trip. They didn't tell me about any trip. Mrs. Jenkins hesitated, her grip tightening on the shears. Robert seemed upset, dear. He mentioned that you'd been harassing them and they needed some time away. The ground seemed to tilt beneath my feet. Harassing them. That's absurd. We had dinner together on Sunday. Everything was fine. Mrs. Jenkins stepped back slightly. I'm sorry, dear. That's just what he said. Maybe there's been a misunderstanding. I fumbled for my phone, dialing Brandon's number for the 5th time that day. Straight to voicemail. Brandon, it's Sam again. Something weird is happening with Mom and Dad. Please call me back immediately. As I ended the call, a text notification appeared from my Aunt Susan, my mother's sister. Respect your parents' wishes, Samantha. They've been patient long enough. My fingers flew across the screen. What are you talking about? I have no idea what's happening. Her response was immediate and cold. Don't play innocent. Brandon showed us everything. Brandon. What did Brandon have to do with this? I opened Facebook, navigating to my mother's profile. We were friends or had been. Now her profile wouldn't load. Block. I tried my father's with the same result. With trembling hands, I checked their Instagram accounts. The family photo from Christmas where I stood between my parents in front of the tree had been removed. So had the pictures from my college graduation, my 25th birthday celebration, the hiking trip we took last summer. Every photo that included me had vanished, as if I had been systematically erased from the Mitchell family history. I slumped against my car, struggling to breathe. This couldn't be happening. There had to be an explanation. People don't just wake up one day and decide their daughter no longer exists. The drive home passed in a blur. I nearly sideswiped a delivery van when tears obscured my vision at a stoplight. When I finally reached my apartment building, a cardboard box sat outside my door. No shipping label, no note. Inside were childhood keepsakes, my high school yearbooks, the teddy bear I'd had since infancy, photo albums, academic awards. The physical evidence of my existence in the Mitchell household, neatly packaged and removed. I staggered inside, collapsing onto my sofa. My laptop lay open on the coffee table. With shaking hands, I logged into the family tracking app we'd used since I went to college. A way for us to stay connected, according to Mom, though I'd always suspected it was more about keeping tabs on me. Account access revoked, the screen informed me. I tried our shared Netflix account, incorrect password. Amazon Prime, where we had a family plan account, not found. One by one, every digital connection to my family had been severed with surgical precision. By evening, I had called my parents 37 times. Texted them 42 times, emailed both their personal and work addresses, left voicemails until their mailboxes were full. The silence was deafening. My phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop harassing my parents. Get help, Sam. I mean it. Brandon." "What the hell is going on?" I typed back. "Why is everyone acting like I've done something terrible?" The message showed as delivered, but went unanswered. I was alone, completely cut off from my family with no explanation, and no idea what could possibly happen next. Sleep evaded me that night as I replayed every interaction with my family from the past weeks, months, even years. Had I said something offensive without realizing? Had I forgotten an important event? The more I searched my memories, the more confused I became. At 3:17 a.m., a conversation from 2 months earlier surfaced in my mind. My cousin Emily's baby shower held in my Aunt Susan's backyard. I'd stepped out to take a work call and returned to find Emily alone by the dessert table. "Hey, how's the mom-to-be?" I'd asked, grabbing a cupcake. Emily had given me an odd look. "Good. How are you doing?" "With everything." "Everything's great. Why?" She'd seemed surprised. "Oh, I just thought." After the family meeting last weekend. Family meeting. What family meeting? Emily's face had flushed. "Never mind. I thought you were there." Pregnancy brain, you know. She'd quickly changed the subject, and I hadn't thought much about it until now. A family meeting I wasn't invited to. About me. I reached for my phone and texted my childhood friend Zoe. She'd remained close with several people from our high school, including Mark, who was friends with Brandon. "I know it's late, but this is an emergency. Have you heard anything about me from Brandon or his friends recently? My family's completely cut me off, and I have no idea why." Remarkably, Zoe responded almost immediately. "Oh my God, I was going to call you. Mark mentioned something weird at the bar last night. Brandon's been telling people you've been having mental problems. Said you've been making up stories about him and your parents. Are you okay?" My hands trembled as I called her. She answered on the first ring. "What exactly did Mark say?" I demanded, skipping pleasantries. "Brandon told him you've been acting paranoid, accusing him of stealing from you, showing up at your parents' house at odd hours making scenes." Mark seemed concerned. None of that is true. I saw my family 3 days ago for dinner. Everything was normal. I didn't believe it, Zoe assured me. But Sam, Mark mentioned something else. Brandon apparently has some serious gambling debts. Like scary people looking for him kind of debts. The first piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Brandon's tired appearance at dinner, the trembling hands, the evasive explanations about his whereabouts. How much, I asked. Mark wasn't sure, but he heard Brandon telling someone he needed to find 50 grand fast or he was in trouble. $50,000. An enormous sum for Brandon, who couldn't keep a job for more than a few months. But our parents had money. Comfortable retirement savings, the house that was almost paid off, investments my father had carefully managed throughout his accounting career. And then there was the trust fund. Our grandparents had established trusts for both Brandon and me when we were born. We could access them at 30, which I would reach in 7 months. Brandon was years away from his. I hung up with Zoe and began rifling through the box of my belongings. Near the bottom, I found a folder of important documents I'd kept in my desk at home. Birth certificate, social security card, and a copy of my grandparents' trust agreement that I'd requested years ago out of curiosity. I scanned the document until I found what I was looking for, a modification made when I was in college. In recognition of Samantha Mitchell's consistent demonstration of financial responsibility and academic achievement, she is designated as contingent beneficiary for Brandon Mitchell's trust in the event that Brandon does not meet the conditions of responsible conduct as outlined in Section 12. Section 12 specifically mentioned gambling addiction as a disqualifying condition for receiving the trust funds. If Brandon's gambling problem came to light, he wouldn't just lose access to his own trust. I would become the beneficiary of both. And if our parents discovered his addiction, they might well write him out of their will too. Brandon had motive. But how had he convinced our parents to cut me off so completely? A notification pinged on my phone, the security app for my apartment building. I clicked on it to see footage of someone leaving a package at my door earlier that day. The timestamp showed 2:14 p.m. when I'd been at my parents' house. I zoomed in on the grainy image. Brandon. My brother had delivered the box of childhood mementos, systematically removing me from our family home while I was desperately trying to reach our parents. The pieces were starting to align, but the full picture remained elusive. How had he turned our parents against me so thoroughly, so quickly? What lies could possibly have been convincing enough to make them text me to never contact them again? I needed answers, and there was only one way to get them. I had to find Brandon. Morning arrived with the harsh glare of reality. No missed calls from my parents, no explanations, just the hollow ache of betrayal lodged in my chest. I forced myself to shower, dress, and drive to work, clinging to the routines of normalcy, while my personal life imploded. The marketing firm's office buzzed with Monday energy. Weekend stories exchanged over coffee, the clacking of keyboards, phones ringing. I slipped into my cubicle, hoping to lose myself in spreadsheets and client presentations. Samantha. My boss, David, appeared at my desk, his expression uncharacteristically solemn. Can I see you in my office? The walk down the corridor felt like a march to execution. David closed the door behind me and gestured to a chair. Is everything all right? He asked, leaning against his desk rather than sitting behind it, his attempt at creating a less formal atmosphere. I'm fine, I lied. Just some family issues I'm working through. He nodded slowly. That's actually why I wanted to talk to you. We received a concerning email about you yesterday. My stomach dropped. An email from whom? It was sent anonymously to HR, but it claimed to be from a family member worried about your well-being. He hesitated. It suggested you've been experiencing some mental health challenges. specifically paranoia and aggressive behavior. The room seemed to tilt sideways. That's completely false. The email mentioned incidents of you showing up at family members' homes unannounced, making accusations, even some threatening behavior. He looked uncomfortable. It also suggested you might be struggling with substance abuse. None of that is true, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, despite the panic fluttering in my chest. I believe my brother is spreading these lies because he's in financial trouble. I can explain everything. David raised his hand. I'm not making any judgments here, Samantha. You've been an exemplary employee. But I should mention, this wasn't just one email. There was a voicemail too, and HR has received calls from someone claiming to be concerned about working with you. The systematic dismantling of my life was extending beyond family borders into my professional world. Brandon, or whoever he had enlisted, was trying to destroy everything I had built. I understand how this looks, I said carefully, but I'm being targeted by someone in my family. I'm gathering evidence, and I'd appreciate the chance to clear my name. David nodded, though doubt lingered in his expression. Take the rest of the day, Samantha. Get whatever help you need. The company's mental health resources are available if useful. We'll talk later this week. It wasn't a firing, but the implication was clear. My position was in jeopardy. At my desk, Rachel slipped me a note. Lunch. We need to talk. We met at a cafe 2 blocks from the office. Rachel's face was grave as she slid into the booth across from me. Someone created a Facebook profile using your photos, she said, without preamble, turning her phone to show me. They're posting really concerning things. I stared at the screen in horror. A profile with my name and picture was filled with rambling posts about betrayal, revenge, and family conspiracies. Exactly the kind of content that would support the narrative of me being mentally unstable. I didn't create this, I whispered. I know, Rachel said firmly. The writing style isn't even close to yours. But Sam, there's more. Your cousin Melissa shared a post asking people to respect the family's privacy during this difficult time, with some vague reference to toxic relationships they're breaking free from. My phone buzzed with a text from my landlord, Miss Mitchell. We've received complaints about disturbances from your unit. Please call me to discuss. This can't be happening, I muttered, showing Rachel the message. Someone's trying to systematically destroy your life, Rachel said, her HR training kicking in. We need to document everything. And you need legal counsel, like yesterday. My wallet felt suddenly heavy in my purse. I pulled it out and tried my credit card for lunch. Declined. The joint account my parents had helped me establish when I started college, where they remained as co-signers just in case, had been closed. I can't even pay for a sandwich, I said, tears threatening. Rachel covered the bill and drove me to her apartment, deeming mine potentially unsafe. My brother's friend is an attorney who handles family disputes, she said, scrolling through her contacts. Jessica Parker. She's supposed to be a shark. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a sleek downtown office, explaining my situation to Jessica, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, who took notes with frightening efficiency. This is a coordinated character assassination, she said when I finished. Likely orchestrated by your brother, possibly with your parents' knowledge, though they may be victims of manipulation as well. What can I do? My voice sounded small even to my own ears. Jessica's expression hardened. Fight back. Systematically, legally, and with evidence. They want to erase you. We'll make sure you're unforgettable. For the first time since reading my father's text, I felt something other than despair. Anger, white-hot and clarifying, surged through me. Someone was trying to destroy me, and I wasn't going to let them succeed. The first rule when you're being framed is documentation, Jessica said, opening a new file on her computer. We need to establish a timeline and gather evidence before they can destroy it. Over the next 3 days, we built what Jessica called the counter-narrative. Rachel took time off work to help her background in HR, proving invaluable for navigating the professional aspects of my situation. Kyle, Rachel's tech-savvy brother, volunteered his expertise when we discovered more fake social media accounts in my name, posting increasingly erratic content. These posts are being made from an IP address associated with. Kyle paused, looking up from his laptop. Your brother's apartment building. Can we use that as evidence? I asked Jessica. It's circumstantial but helpful. Keep tracking it, she advised Kyle. My apartment no longer felt safe. Strange cars parked outside for hours. Deliveries I hadn't ordered arrived at odd hours. One night I received 19 pizza deliveries in a row, all ordered under my name with instructions to bang loudly on the door she's hard of hearing. With Rachel's help, I installed security cameras and documented every incident. Jessica advised against staying there, so I rotated between Rachel's couch and cheap motels, never establishing a pattern. The financial investigation revealed the most damning evidence. Kyle managed to access records showing Brandon had gained access to our parents' accounts shortly after our last family dinner. Large withdrawals coincided exactly with the timeline of Brandon's rumored gambling losses, including a $50,000 transfer the very morning my parents sent the text cutting me off. My phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Things will get worse if you don't back off. Last warning. Jessica photographed the message before responding. This constitutes criminal harassment. Further contact will result in legal action. The reply came instantly. No one will believe you. You're just a crazy girl making accusations. Ask anyone. On Jessica's advice, I started therapy with Dr. Martinez, a psychologist who specialized in family trauma. We need to document your mental stability, Jessica explained. And frankly, you need support to get through this. Dr. Martinez helped me understand the sophisticated psychological manipulation at play. What you're experiencing is a coordinated campaign of gaslighting and isolation, she explained during our second session. The goal is to make you question your own reality while cutting off your support systems. When we took our evidence to the police, they were disappointingly unhelpful. Sounds like a family dispute to me, the officer said with a shrug after glancing at our documentation. We can't get involved unless there's a clear crime. Someone is systematically destroying my client's life, Jessica argued. Harassment, defamation, possibly identity theft. Look, Miss Parker, the officer interrupted. We deal with real crimes. Assaults, robberies. Family squabbles need to be handled in civil court. As we left the station, Jessica's expression was grim. That's often how it goes. But we're building a case and eventually someone will listen. Rachel proved to be my most steadfast ally, helping me create secure cloud storage for all evidence and offering emotional support when everything felt hopeless. We're going to get through this, she assured me one night as we sorted through screenshots of defamatory posts. The truth has a way of coming out. I wished I shared her confidence. Every day brought new attacks on my character, my stability, my very right to exist in spaces I'd once felt secure. But beneath the fear and hurt, something harder was forming. A determination that wouldn't be easily broken. The email arrived on a Wednesday morning, 3 weeks after my parents' text. We regret to inform you that Adams and Burke Marketing will be terminating your employment effective immediately. Despite David's initial support, the Whisper campaign had succeeded. A follow-up conversation revealed multiple complaints and concerns about my ability to maintain professional relationships. Though David seemed genuinely regretful, corporate policy left him little choice after the orchestrated barrage of complaints. That same afternoon, my landlord confirmed he wouldn't be renewing my lease, citing numerous disturbances and concerns from other tenants. I had 60 days to vacate the apartment I'd called home for 3 years. Even friends began to distance themselves. Allison, whom I'd known since college, sent a troubling text. "I got some weird messages from you last night. I think you should talk to someone." When I explained those messages couldn't possibly have come from me, her response was tepid. "Maybe this isn't a good time for us to be in contact." One by one, the pillars of my life were crumbling. Each morning required immense courage just to face the day, not knowing what new devastating loss awaited. I was leaving a session with Dr. Martinez when I spotted him, Brandon sitting at an outdoor cafe across from her office building. The calculated coincidence made my blood boil. He waved as if nothing were wrong, gesturing for me to join him. Against my better judgment, but with Jessica's voice recorder app activated in my pocket, I sat down across from my brother. "Hey, sis." His smile held the same charm that had gotten him out of trouble throughout our childhood. "You look terrible." "Cut the crap, Brandon. What do you want?" His expression shifted to one of concern, so convincing it would have fooled anyone who didn't know better. "I'm worried about you, Sam. We all are. These accusations you're making, these conspiracy theories, it's not like you." "You mean the accusations that you stole $50,000 from our parents?" After convincing them I'm mentally unstable, I kept my voice low but firm. "See, this is exactly what I'm talking about." He sighed dramatically, reaching for my hand. I pulled it away. "You need help, Sam. Professional help. We can find you a good treatment center." "Stop it," I hissed. "I know what you're doing. I have proof of the money transfers, the fake social media accounts, everything." Something flashed in his eyes. Alarm quickly masked. "Proof of what? That our parents helped me with a business investment. That's hardly criminal." A business investment. I couldn't help the bitter laugh. Is that what they're calling gambling debts these days? Brandon's expression hardened. "You always thought you were better than me, didn't you? Perfect Samantha with her perfect grades and perfect job and perfect life. I never." "You were going to get everything," he snapped, his voice rising. "The trust's mom and dad's inheritance eventually. All because you checked the right boxes while I was struggling." A couple at the next table glanced over. Brandon immediately modulated his tone, leaning in with a practiced look of concern. "This paranoia isn't helping your case, Sam," he said softly. "Let it go. Take some time away. Get the help you need." I stood my chair, scraping loudly against the pavement. "This isn't over." His smile turned cold. "It already is. No one believes you, Sam. No one." Later that week, I ran into my cousin Emily at the grocery store. She tried to hurry past with her shopping cart, but I blocked the aisle. "Emily, please," I said. "Just tell me what happened at that family meeting." She looked around nervously. "I can't talk to you, Sam," Aunt Catherine said. "My mother wants you to believe I'm having some kind of breakdown, right? That I stole something or threatened someone." Emily's eyes widened. "The jewelry. Grandma's jewelry that was supposed to go to you someday. They said you took it and sold it." "What? I've never touched Grandma's jewelry." "Brandon found the pawn ticket in your old bedroom," Emily said, confusion clouding her features. "He showed everyone at the meeting." The missing piece clicked into place. "Emily, when was this meeting exact?" "About 2 months ago, right after Easter." 2 months. Long before my parents cut contact. Brandon had been laying groundwork, planting seeds of doubt about me with extended family members, while maintaining a normal facade in our immediate family interactions. A quick investigation through jewelry store records revealed the truth. Brandon had pawned our grandmother's antique sapphire necklace and diamond earrings 3 months earlier. The pawn shop owner remembered him clearly. Young guy nervous, said he needed quick cash for a business opportunity. Each revelation should have provided some relief, some validation that I wasn't crazy, but instead I felt increasingly hollowed out. My brother had systematically destroyed my life, and my parents had believed him without ever giving me a chance to defend myself. That night alone in a motel room paid for with Rachel's credit card, I hit rock bottom. What was the point of fighting? My family was gone. My job was gone. My home would soon be gone. Maybe I should just leave town, start over somewhere new where no one knew me or the twisted story Brandon had created. Dr. Martinez's words from our last session echoed in my mind. Remember, Samantha, gaslighting works by making you doubt your own perceptions. The moment you start believing their narrative is the moment they win. I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The dark circles under my eyes, the weight I'd lost the defeat etched into every line of my face. Was this really me? The woman who had graduated top of her class, built a promising career, maintained genuine relationships. Or was I becoming the unstable, paranoid person Brandon had invented? In that moment of clarity, I made a decision. I would not let Brandon's fiction become my reality. Somehow, I would find a way to reclaim my truth, my family, and my life. The universe works in mysterious ways. Sometimes, rock bottom is actually the foundation upon which you rebuild. I was leaving Dr. Martinez's office when my phone rang. An unknown number that I almost ignored, assuming it was another harassing call. Something made me answer. "Is this Samantha Mitchell?" A woman's voice vaguely familiar. "Yes. Who's this?" "Maria Diaz. I used to clean your parents' house. They fired me last month very suddenly." Maria had worked for my parents for nearly a decade. I remembered her kindness when I'd visit home. How she'd always save me an extra piece of the lemon cake she baked for my father. "They fired you. Why?" "That's why I'm calling," she said, her voice lowered. "It didn't seem right what I heard. Your brother was talking to your parents in the kitchen. I was cleaning the guest bathroom, but the vent, you know how sounds travel through those vents in old houses." My heart raced. "What did you hear, Maria?" "He was saying terrible things about you. That you had stolen money from them, that you were unstable, dangerous even." Your mother was crying. "But Miss Samantha, the thing is, he mentioned taking $50,000 from them that same day. For an investment opportunity he needed immediately." "Did my parents give him the money?" "Yes, I saw your father write the check. But the next day, when I came to work, Brandon was there again. He was on the phone with someone, didn't know I had arrived early. He was laughing, saying, 'They bought it completely. The money's being wired to cover everything. She'll never know.'" I thanked Maria profusely for reaching out, my mind racing with the implications of her information. When I shared it with Jessica, she immediately subpoenaed my parents' bank records. The transfer went through on Tuesday at 9:17 a.m., Jessica confirmed when the records arrived. Their text message cutting you off was sent at 1:243 p.m. the same day. With Kyle's help, we recovered deleted emails between Brandon and my parents from the weeks leading up to the cutoff. The messages were a masterclass in manipulation. Subtle suggestions about my mental state concerning behaviors he claimed to have witnessed, expressions of reluctance to share his worries, and finally fabricated evidence of financial impropriety. "Your brother's good," Jessica admitted, reviewing the emails. "He played on their insecurities about you growing apart from them, your independence. Made them feel like they were losing you anyway, so the break would hurt less than watching you spiral." I reconnected with Jenna, my college roommate, who now worked as a paralegal for a prestigious law firm. Her boss had connections to Patrick Donovan, an investigative journalist specializing in family fraud cases. "Your story has all the classic elements," Patrick said when we met at Jessica's office. "The golden child targeting the responsible one, financial motivation disguised as concern isolation tactics. Unfortunately, it's more common than you might think." Together, we developed a strategic plan to gather conclusive evidence of Brandon's deception. The key, Patrick insisted, was getting Brandon to incriminate himself. He thinks he's won, Patrick explained. People get careless when they think they've won. We staged a meeting at a cafe, the same one where Brandon had confronted me weeks earlier. I texted him, "You're right, I can't fight anymore. Let's talk about how this ends." His reply was immediate, triumphant, "Smart decision, sis. Tomorrow 2 p.m. With recording devices hidden in my purse and Patrick positioned at a nearby table, I prepared for the performance of my life. Brandon arrived looking confident, well-rested, the picture of a concerned brother rather than the architect of my destruction. "You look better," he said, sliding into the chair across from me. "More reasonable." I forced vulnerability into my expression. "I'm exhausted, Brandon. I just want this to be over." "That's good, Sam. That's really good." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Have you thought about that treatment center I mentioned?" "I can't afford it," I said quietly. "I've lost everything. Mom and Dad might help if you admit what you've done and apologize." I stared at my hands. "What exactly should I be apologizing for?" Brandon leaned forward, lowering his voice. "The theft would be a start. The harassment. The lies about me. You want me to confess to things I didn't do. I want you to give everyone peace, Sam." He reached for his water glass, a flash of our grandfather's watch visible at his wrist. A family heirloom my father had always promised to me. "Sometimes the truth is less important than resolution." "Is that what you told yourself?" I asked. "When you pawned Grandma's jewelry and blamed me? When you stole $50,000 from our parents to pay your gambling debts?" His expression flickered. "That's exactly the kind of paranoid accusation that got you into this mess. It's not paranoia when there's proof, Brandon." "What proof?" His confidence wavered slightly. "Bank transfers. Pawnshop records. Witness statements." I kept my voice steady. "You've been sloppy." Brandon's laugh was hollow. "And who's going to believe you over me? Mom and Dad already made their choice." "Because you manipulated them. Created a fictional version of me while hiding your gambling addiction." His eyes narrowed. "It was supposed to be mine." "What was?" "All of it." His control slipped momentarily. "The trust funds the inheritance. The golden child doesn't always get everything, Sam. So you destroyed my life over money." His voice dropped to a venomous whisper. "It was almost too easy. Plant a few seeds with the family, create some concerning incidents, set you up to look unstable. Mom and Dad were so eager to believe you'd finally cracked under all that perfectionism. They loved you," I said, fighting to keep my composure. "They would have helped you with your gambling debts if you'd just been honest." Brandon's expression darkened. "And risk being cut off, written out of the will. You have no idea what it's like living in your shadow, Sam. Always the screw-up, always the disappointment. I found a way to win for once, by making me lose everything." He shrugged, a gesture so callous it took my breath away. "Collateral damage. Nothing personal." As he reached for his jacket, preparing to leave, I delivered the final line we had rehearsed. "I recorded this entire conversation, Brandon. It's over." His face went slack with shock, then twisted with rage. "You little..." "Miss Mitchell." Patrick appeared at our table, press credentials visible. "Everything okay here?" Brandon froze, suddenly aware of the trap he'd walked into. Without another word, he stormed out of the cafe. "Did you get it?" I asked Patrick once Brandon was gone. He nodded, reviewing the recording on his device. "Every word. Your brother just gave us everything we need." For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope unfurling in my chest. The truth was recorded, indisputable. Now I just needed my parents to hear it. "Evidence without strategy is just noise," Jessica said, as we assembled what she called the reckoning package. "We need to be methodical about how we present this information." Over the next week, we compiled a comprehensive dossier bank records showing Brandon's access to my parents' accounts, documented gambling losses through casino records. Patrick had obtained timestamps of false social media posts, traced to Brandon's devices the pawn ticket for my grandmother's jewelry, bearing Brandon's signature, and most damning of all, the recorded confession. "We start with your aunt," Susan Jessica advised. "She was one of the first family members Brandon turned against you. If we can convince her, she can help reach your parents." I was nervous about facing Susan, who had been so coldly dismissive when the estrangement began. We met at Jessica's office, where the professional setting lent credibility to our presentation. Susan arrived with arms crossed and lips tight, the physical embodiment of skepticism. "I'm only here because you said it concerned my sister's well-being," she said, refusing to meet my eyes. "Thank you for coming," I said, pushing down my hurt. "I know you care about my mom, which is why you need to see this." For 45 minutes, we walked her through the evidence, finishing with the recording of Brandon's confession. Throughout the presentation, Susan's expression shifted from doubt to confusion to horror. "Oh my God," she whispered when the recording ended. "Catherine and Robert have no idea. They truly believe you've been having some kind of breakdown." "Brandon convinced them," I said. "He used their concerns about me growing distant to plant doubts, then fabricated evidence to confirm their fears." Susan pressed her fingers to her lips. "The things he said about you, I didn't question any of it because it came from family. I'm so sorry, Samantha." Her apology loosened something tight in my chest. "Will you help me reach my parents? They've blocked me completely." "They're staying at the lake house," Susan revealed, "hiding from what they think is your escalating behavior. I can call them, but they need to see the evidence directly," Jessica finished. "Would you be willing to bring them the information?" Susan nodded determination, replacing her earlier skepticism. "I'll do better than that. I'll get them here to see it themselves." While Susan worked on my parents, we pursued another angle. Through Zoe's connection to Mark, we arranged a meeting with two of Brandon's gambling associates, men who had witnessed his descent into addiction and his desperate attempts to cover his mounting debts. Mitchell owes everyone in town confirmed a thin man who introduced himself only as Vince. He was bragging a few months back about a family solution to his problems. Said his sister was going to help him out whether she knew it or not. This testimony, combined with casino records showing Brandon's losses exceeding $80,000 in 6 months, painted a clear picture of his motive. Kyle's technical expertise proved invaluable for the next phase. Using connections from his cybersecurity work, he created what he called a controlled sting operation, a fake high-stakes poker game that would be presented to Brandon as an opportunity to win back his losses. "We don't want him to actually gamble," Kyle explained, "just to attempt to access more funds to do so." An anonymous tip to my father's business partner about financial irregularities in accounts Brandon helped manage set the trap. When Brandon received the invitation to the fake poker game, his response was predictable. He attempted to embezzle funds from my parents' business to cover his buy-in. The business partner, now alerted to watch for suspicious activity, caught the transaction attempt immediately and contacted my father. 2 days later, my phone rang with a number I'd never expected to see again: home. "Samantha." My father's voice hesitant and strained. "We need to talk to you." The meeting took place at Susan's house, neutral territory that felt safer than Jessica's intimidating office. My parents arrived looking older than when I'd last seen them just weeks earlier. My mother's face drawn, my father's shoulders slumped with the weight of terrible realization. I sat across from them at Susan's dining table, Jessica beside me for support and protection. "We found Brandon trying to steal from the business," my father said without preamble. When confronted, he broke down. "Admitted to some things." "What things exactly?" Jessica asked. "Taking money. Lying about investments. My father struggled to continue. He admitted to pawning your grandmother's jewelry, Samantha. My mother's eyes filled with tears. He said he'd been having gambling problems, but he denied setting you up. Said that part was still true. We have evidence proving otherwise, Jessica said, sliding the dossier across the table. Everything is documented here, including Brandon's recorded confession. For an excruciating hour, my parents reviewed the evidence in silence. When my mother reached the transcript of Brandon's cafe confession, she let out a small broken sound. "Play the recording," my father requested, his voice hoarse. Brandon's voice filled the room. It was almost too easy. Plant a few seeds with the family, create some concerning incidents, set you up to look unstable. Mom and Dad were so eager to believe you'd finally cracked under all that perfectionism. My mother covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. My father sat perfectly still, his expression devastated. "We believed him," he finally said. "Without question. Without ever giving you a chance to defend yourself. You cut me out of your lives completely," I said, my voice catching. No conversation, no opportunity to explain. Just a text message ending 29 years of being your daughter. "We thought we were protecting ourselves," my mother whispered. "Brandon said you were dangerous, unstable, that your marketing career was just a front for illegal activities. He had emails, texts, evidence, fabricated evidence," Jessica corrected. "Your son systematically destroyed your daughter's reputation, career, and home to cover his gambling debts and secure his inheritance." "Where is he now?" I asked. My father's expression hardened. "We confronted him after catching the embezzlement attempt. He denied everything at first, then tried to blame his gambling partners for threatening him. When we didn't believe that, he stormed out. We haven't seen him since." "He's destroyed so much," my mother said, reaching tentatively for my hand across the table. I didn't pull away, but I couldn't return the gesture either. "Can you ever forgive us, Samantha?" The question hung in the air between us. After everything I'd lost, my job, my apartment, my reputation, my sense of security, forgiveness seemed an impossible summit to climb. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "I don't know if I can ever forget being abandoned without a chance to defend myself." My father nodded, accepting this hard truth. "We don't deserve your forgiveness, but we want to make amends if you'll let us try." It wasn't resolution, but it was a beginning. The long process of rebuilding what Brandon had so efficiently destroyed would take time. And trust, once broken, is the hardest thing to repair. 3 weeks after the confrontation at Susan's house, a handwritten letter arrived at Rachel's apartment where I was still staying while apartment hunting. The familiar handwriting, my mother's elegant cursive, made my hands tremble as I opened the envelope. "Dearest Samantha," it began. "Words cannot express the depth of our regret and shame for believing the lies about you and cutting you from our lives so cruelly. We understand that an apology cannot undo the harm we've caused, and we recognize that you may never be able to forgive us fully. We hope only for the chance to begin rebuilding what our failure has destroyed." The letter continued for pages, detailing their shock at discovering Brandon's deception, their grief over participating in the destruction of my life, and their hope, however slim, for eventual reconciliation. I set the letter aside, unable to formulate a response. Part of me wanted to rush to them to reclaim the family I'd lost. Another part remained wary, wounded by how easily they'd discarded me. "You don't have to decide anything right now," Dr. Martinez advised during our session that week. "Trauma recovery isn't linear, and family betrayal is among the most profound traumas we can experience. I miss them," I admitted. "But I'm also still so angry." "Both feelings can coexist," she said gently. "The question isn't whether you should forgive them, but what boundaries you need to protect yourself while you process these complicated emotions." A week later, I agreed to meet my parents at Dr. Martinez's office, neutral territory with professional support. They arrived early, tension evident in their rigid postures and anxious expressions. "Thank you for coming," my father said, his voice rough with emotion. The conversation that followed was painful but necessary. My parents explained how Brandon had systematically manipulated their concerns about my growing independence, gradually reframing my success and self-sufficiency as evidence of secretive behavior. "He preyed on our fears that we were losing you to your new life," my mother explained, tissues clutched in her hand. "Every time you missed a call or couldn't make a family dinner because of work, he suggested you were hiding something." Small comments at first, my father added. Then more direct accusations backed by what appeared to be evidence. Texts, emails, even videos that he'd doctored. "You never once asked me directly. I said the hurt's still raw. 29 years of being your daughter and you didn't even give me a chance to defend myself." My mother's tears flowed freely. "We believed we were protecting ourselves from further pain. Brandon convinced us you were already gone, that the daughter we loved had changed into someone dangerous." "Where is Brandon now?" I asked. My father's expression hardened. "We don't know exactly. He disappeared after we confronted him about the embezzlement attempt. His apartment was cleared out the next day. He's admitted to his gambling addiction," my mother added. "He's entered a treatment program as a condition of us not pressing charges for the theft." I nodded, unsure how to feel about my brother's situation. Despite everything he'd done, a small part of me still remembered the little boy who'd once looked up to his big sister. Dr. Martinez guided us through establishing boundaries for moving forward. My parents wanted immediate restoration. I needed gradual steps with clear expectations. "We can start with weekly dinners," I suggested. "In public places at first. And I need complete transparency about any contact with Brandon." "Anything you need," my father agreed quickly. "We just want a chance to earn your trust again." Over the following months, we began the delicate process of rebuilding. Healing came in small moments. My mother helping me find a new apartment, my father using his business connections to secure job interviews, both of them publicly acknowledging Brandon's deception and my innocence to extended family and friends. Professional redemption came unexpectedly. Rachel had continued documenting the campaign against me at Adams and Burke. When the truth about Brandon's manipulation emerged, she presented the evidence to HR, resulting in a formal apology and job offer from the company. I declined, instead accepting a position at a competing firm that offered better advancement opportunities. "Their loss is our gain," said my new boss, Natalie, who had heard about my situation through industry connections and recognized the injustice. The psychological scars healed more slowly. Trust issues plagued my new relationships. Nightmares about abandonment disrupted my sleep. Unexpected triggers. Group text messages, security system, keypads, even family photos could send me spiraling into anxiety. Dr. Martinez helped me recognize these as normal responses to abnormal circumstances. "Recovery isn't about forgetting what happened," she explained. "It's about integrating the experience into your life story without letting it define your future." 6 months after the confrontation, I hosted Thanksgiving dinner in my new apartment. The guest list reflected my evolving definition of family: Rachel and Kyle, who had stood by me at my lowest; Susan, whose apology had been followed by consistent support; Jessica, whose fierce advocacy had helped restore my reputation; and my parents, who continued the patient work of earning back my trust. Brandon's absence was both painful and necessary. He remained in recovery, sending occasional messages through my parents. I wasn't ready for direct contact, still unsure if I'd ever be able to forgive his calculated destruction of my life. As we gathered around the table, my mother's traditional side dishes alongside new recipes I'd learned during my months of independence, I realized that family is both a gift and a choice. The people who truly deserved a place in my life had proven their loyalty during my darkest times. Before we eat, I said, raising my glass, I want to thank each of you for different reasons. This past year taught me that family isn't just about blood. It's about who stays when it would be easier to walk away. My father's eyes glistened with unshed tears. My mother reached for my hand across the table. This time I took it. The road to complete healing stretched far ahead with no guarantees of reaching perfect resolution. Some wounds may always leave scars, but standing in my own space surrounded by people who had demonstrated genuine love through their actions, I knew I had survived the worst betrayal imaginable and emerged stronger, wiser, and more authentic. Family relationships, like all human connections, require honest communication, respect, and the courage to establish boundaries. The text message that once shattered my world now served as a reminder of my resilience and the power of truth to eventually prevail even in the darkest circumstances. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you handle rebuilding or deciding not to rebuild that relationship? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more real stories of survival and healing. And remember, sometimes the family we choose is as important as the family we're born into. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I hope it helps those of you navigating your own complicated family dynamics. You are not alone.